Hey, good afternoon, folks. My name is Robert Szanski. I'm a senior deployment manager with the U.S. Department of Energy's Office of Manufacturing and Energy Supply Chains. A couple of quick housekeeping notes before we get started. This webinar is being recorded and it will be published on the same site that you probably found the funding opportunity announcement, or FOA as we'll be referring to it during this webinar. Unfortunately, you will not be able to connect to DOE personnel or any other participants via voice or video conferencing during the webinar. If you do have any questions, we ask prospective applicants to direct those questions to the question and answer email address that's found in this webinar. DOE will attempt to respond to these questions within 3 business days unless a similar question and answer has already been posted to the website. Next slide, please. Since you all made it here today, you're probably aware that this is the Advanced Energy Manufacturing and Recycling Grant Program. It is funded by Section 40209 of the Bipartisan Infrastructure Law, for those of you policy wonks out there. Next slide, please. Couple more disclaimers. There will be no new information other than what's provided in the FOA that will be discussed today. While we really appreciate you joining this webinar, there are no particular advantages or disadvantages to your participation in terms of the application evaluation process. Your participation is completely voluntary. Next slide. We strongly encourage all applicants to the FOA to read the FOA document in depth and adhere to the stated submission requirements. We spent a lot of time writing it, so we would appreciate if you read the whole thing if you're planning on submitting a application. This presentation will summarize the contents of the FOA, but in the instance that there are any inconsistencies between the FOA and this presentation or statements from DOE during this presentation, the FOA is the controlling document and the last word, and applicants should rely on the FOA language. Next slide. It's a quick rundown of the information that we will be covering today. We do encourage you to have the FOA up to refer to during this presentation. Next slide. Okay, let's get into it here. So why are we here? What are the policy priorities behind this program? The first is reinvigorating and reinvesting in American manufacturing. American manufacturing quite literally built this country, and American manufacturing jobs were the driving force behind the American middle class becoming as strong as it is today. And small and medium-sized manufacturers in particular could be regarded as the backbone of American manufacturing in general. They account for almost 99% of all U.S. manufacturing businesses. They bring more than $1 trillion in annual revenue to the American economy, and they provide more than 5 million high-quality, family-sustaining American jobs. So, American manufacturing has taken some hits over the course of the last 50 years or so. But, a quick story about this program to kind of ground you in the work we're doing. Weirton, West Virginia is a small city sandwiched between the Ohio and Pennsylvania border. Although it's a coal town although it's a steel town, it sits right in the heart of coal country in Appalachia. Unfortunately, although Weirton's history was forged in the steel industry, they're currently facing down the layoffs of their last remaining steel workers, which once numbered upwards of 3,000. Fortunately, this program was able to announce in December selection for negotiation of award for a project that will bring hundreds of jobs back to Weirton, manufacturing chromium and other high performance alloys that will go into the green steel industry of the future, as well as the rest of the clean energy manufacturing industry. So, we are quite literally building the future of American steel in a place that was so important to the history. So these are the kinds of stories that really drive the work we do. Next, we are working to establish resilient and secure American clean energy supply chains. Not only, do we expect that the American clean energy industry will, continue to break deployment records year over year, but the global market for clean energy is expected to top $23 trillion by the end of the decade. So, these supply chains are a matter of American security, national security, energy security, and economic security. We all saw the risks that come with supply chains being bottlenecked, thousands of miles away from U.S. soil. So, we aim to manufacture the next generation of energy, right here in America. Next slide, please. So the reduction of industrial greenhouse gas emissions is another major priority here. The climate crisis is here, whether or not it's American coastal cities being wiped out by supercharged storms, or cities being blanketed by smoke from wildfires hundreds of miles away. It's something that we have to address. Unfortunately, the industrial sector, accounts for roughly 30% of all energy related CO2 emissions. And, this program is especially well positioned to help tackle those emissions. First, we're investing funds directly into re-equipping manufacturing facilities to drastically reduce their emissions. But we also can work with other federal government initiatives like the American Buy Clean initiative, to utilize and leverage the purchasing power of the U.S. government as the largest purchaser of goods and services in the world. We can, tie into that purchasing power and use our program to help catalyze the growth of nascent industries like domestic low carbon material manufacturing. And, finally, last but certainly not least, the Department of Energy is committed to doing whatever we can to bring about a just and equitable clean energy transition. What does that mean? It means not leaving behind, the people and places that powered the growth of the economy for the last century. It means, investing into place-based economic development strategies that put money right back into the communities and parts of the economy that needs them most. It means utilizing energy assets, existing coal and fossil energy assets where we can, reskilling the workers that operated our coal plants, or worked our coal mines, or reusing the existing infrastructure in buildings that went into the coal economy. We want to do the best we can on reusing fossil assets. And finally, we want to give these places a psychological and financial boost and position them to be integral to the clean energy economy for the century to come. So this is the motivation behind behind this program. I'm going to pass it off to Jeff Bodner, my colleague, who's going to walk you through the nuts and bolts of the FOA process here. Thanks.
Thanks, Rob. You can go to the next slide, please, Rick. Thank you. So thanks, Rob. Good afternoon. My name is Jeff Bodner from the Office of Manufacturing and Energy Supply Chains, or MESC, and I am the FOA manager under this funding opportunity announcement. So in the interest of time, I'm going to dive right in. To touch briefly on the schedule, the FOA was published last Friday with concept papers due April 8th by 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and full applications will be due on June 24th, also at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We anticipate selection notifications to be made in November of this year. Next slide, please. Eligibility. So this FOA has eligibility requirements limited to small and medium-sized manufacturers that meet eligibility criteria, such as size in terms of employee count at the plant site, annual revenue, and annual energy bills for the entity. Additionally, the proposed project must be conducted in a location that's been impacted by a recent coal mine or coal-fired electricity generating power plant closure. To demonstrate eligibility, applicants will be required to certify and demonstrate their eligibility with the eligibility certification form and addendum submission required with the full application. For greater detail around the eligibility requirements, please refer to Section 3A of the FOA. Next slide, please. Okay, so displayed here is a map showing the census tracts with relevant coal mine and coal-fired electricity generating power plant unit closures, as well as the immediately adjacent census tracts. This is designed to assist applicants in determining if their project is in an eligible geographic location. The project must be in an eligible census tract in order for the proposal to be considered for award. Next slide, please. FOA guide. So immediately prior to the table of contents in the FOA is a table known as the FOA guide. It's designed to be an additional document navigation tool that provides some common questions around the FOA document with a short answer and a location of where within the document further details can be found. Should any discrepancies exist between the FOA guide and the text in the rest of the FOA, the language in the rest of the FOA is still the authoritative source. Applicants are still encouraged to read the FOA in its entirety. Next slide, please. Areas of interest. So this funding opportunity is seeking project proposals under two areas of interest. Area of interest 1, advanced energy manufacturing and recycling projects, and area of interest 2, industrial decarbonization projects. The projects under Area of Interest 1 will be to establish new or re-equip or expand an existing manufacturing or recycling facility for the production or recycling as applicable of advanced energy property. Applicants under Area of Interest 1 will need to clearly describe the specific advanced energy property to be manufactured or recycled under the project. Details around the types of eligible specific advanced energy property can be found in the FOA. Projects under Area of Interest 2 will be to re-equip an existing industrial or manufacturing facility with equipment designed to substantially reduce the greenhouse gas emissions of that facility, or establish a new or re-equip or expand an existing manufacturing facility that produces materials that result in substantially lower carbon intensity. Applicants under Area of Interest 2 will be required to detail their proposed project and its impacts on reducing greenhouse gas emissions or lowering the overall carbon intensity. Please carefully read the FOA for full details around each area of interest. Next slide, please. Partnering. So a teaming partner list will be compiled for organizations wishing to express their interest to other applicants and explore potential partnerships. Interested parties should submit their information on the infrastructure exchange system with all the required information. Updates to the teaming partner list will be found in the infrastructure exchange system. Next slide, please. The award information. So the displayed table contains some details around the information for awards generated under this funding opportunity. Applicants that propose a DOE share in excess of the maximum limits will not be evaluated and will be considered non-responsive. DOE may issue awards in one, multiple, or none of the topic areas of this FOA, and DOE may establish more than one budget period for each award and fund only the initial budget period. Furthermore, funding for all budget periods, including the initial budget period, is not guaranteed. For reference, since the range of anticipated individual minimum and maximum award sizes is so large, the DOE is providing transparency that applicants may propose what is considered a smaller proposal, ranging from $2 to $10 million, but may also propose what is considered a larger proposal, ranging from $10 to $100 million as well. Regardless of the proposed award size, the DOE can only estimate the anticipated number of awards of which the small and large award sizes shall receive. Regardless of the proposed size, all applications are subject to the same merit review criteria of the FOA. The DOE does not assist applicants with decisions regarding proposed award size, as it lies solely with the applicant. Next slide, please. Substantial involvement. So under cooperative agreements, there will be what is known as substantial involvement between MESC and the recipient during the project. The DOE does not limit its involvement to the administrative requirements of awards made under this FOA, and a non-exhaustive list of what substantial involvements includes is displayed on this slide. Next slide, please. Cost sharing. The cost share requirement under this funding opportunity must be at least 50%. Applicants are bound by the cost share proposed in the full application if selected for award negotiations. Applicants are encouraged to read the information in the funding opportunity announcement around cost share. Additionally, applicants are encouraged to refer to 2 CFR 200-306 and 2 CFR 910-310 for additional requirements around cost share. Next slide, please. So MESC FOA timeline is shown here. MESC will review concept papers and full applications and may conduct some pre-selection interviews as part of the evaluation process. Details around the concept papers, full applications, and pre-selection interviews will be discussed later in the presentation. Next slide, please. So concept papers. Applicants must submit a concept paper by 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on April 8th, 2024. Of note, per the FOA, an entity may submit more than one concept paper and application to this FOA, provided that each application describes a unique, distinct project, and provided that an eligible concept paper was submitted for each full application. DOE will not review or consider submissions submitted through any means other than infrastructure exchange, submissions after the applicable deadline, or incomplete submissions. Next slide, please. So please refer to the slide for the content and form of the concept paper. Please make note that applicants must complete and submit the concept paper worksheet in addition to their concept paper submission. For a more in-depth look at the content and form of the concept paper, please refer to section 4C of the FOA. Next slide, please. So detailed here are the technical review criteria that will be utilized for the concept paper submissions. DOE makes an independent assessment of each concept paper based on the criteria. DOE will encourage a subset of applicants to submit full applications. Other applicants will be discouraged from submitting a full application. Discouraged applicants can still submit a full application, but would be well served by a careful review of the rationale for discouragement. Next slide, please. Full applications. As previously indicated, applicants must submit full applications by June 24th, 2024 by 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. MESC will review eligible applications as defined within the FOA, provided the applicant submitted a compliant concept paper. Next slide, please. So here you can see a list of some of the submissions for the full applications. Detailed guidance on the content and form of each application component is provided in section 4D of the FOA. Next slide, please. Technical volume. So the technical volume is the key technical component of the full application. The technical volume should contain a project overview section, a business development management plan section, an engineering, procurement, construction, and operations section, a risk analysis and mitigation section, and a work plan section. Next slide, please. Community benefits plans. Each proposal must include a community benefits plan to support the goal of building a clean and equitable energy economy. Applicants are expected to detail the benefits of their proposed project to support meaningful community and labor engagement, invest in America's workforce, advance diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility, and contribute to the Justice 40 initiative. Also provided in this slide is a link for a resource around assistance with writing community benefits plans. Once again, just as a reminder, the slide deck will soon be available on the Infrastructure Exchange website. Next slide, please. The merit review and selection process. The merit review process consists of multiple phases, including an eligibility and thorough technical review by subject matter experts. The selection official considers the recommendations of reviewers, program policy factors, along with other considerations to make these selection decisions. Next slide, please. So this display details the technical merit review criteria with their associated scoring weights for the application of the FOA. In assessing projects against the review criteria, the comprehensiveness, specificity, and accuracy of the information, as well as the reasonableness of assumptions used in making estimations and projections, will be considered. Each criterion has a list of sub-criteria that will be utilized in evaluating each proposed application. It should be noted that criterion 1 has specific review sub-criteria for area of interest. It should be noted that criterion 1 has specific review sub-criteria for area of interest 1 and area of interest 2, respectively. For full details around the technical review criteria, please refer to section 5A2 of the FOA. Next slide, please. Pre-selection interviews. So as part of the evaluation and selection process, DOE may choose to invite one or more applicants for pre-selection interviews to provide clarification on contents of the application and provide the DOE with an opportunity to ask questions about the proposed project. Participation in pre-selection interviews does not signify that applicants have been selected for award negotiations. Next slide, please. Program policy factors. So the next few slides detail the program policy factors included in the FOA. As previously indicated, the selection official may consider the program policy factors in determining which applications to select for award negotiations. Next slide, please, Rick. As they may be taken into consideration for selection, applicants are encouraged to review all the program policy factors as they are detailed within the FOA. Next slide, please, Rick. For descriptions of each of the program policy factors associated with this funding opportunity announcement, please refer to section 5C1 of the FOA. Next slide, please. Registration and submission. Each organization or business unit, whether acting as a team or a single entity, should use only one account as the contact point for each submission. Applicants must also designate backup points of contact. This step is required to apply for the FOA. The exchange registration does not have a delay. However, the remaining registration requirements in SAM, FedConnect, and grants.gov could take several weeks to process and are necessary for a potential applicant to receive an award under this FOA. Next slide, please. So all required submissions must come through Infrastructure Exchange. MESC will not review or consider applications submitted through any other means. The user's guide for applying to funding opportunity announcements can be found at the displayed link. Next slide, please. Applicants should check all entries and submit 1 to 2 days prior to the deadline to allow for full upload of the application and avoid any potential issues. Be sure to hit the submit button, as any changes made after submitting will unsubmit the application and you will be required to hit submit again. Next slide, please. It is of the utmost importance that applicants and/or selectees for negotiation be responsive and must designate primary and backup points of contact in Infrastructure Exchange with whom MESC can communicate during award negotiations. Failure to maintain responsiveness could result in cancellation of award negotiations and rescission of the selection. Next slide, please. If you have any questions about the FOA, please submit them via email to MESC_FOA3294@netl.doe.gov. All questions and answers submitted and related to the FOA will be posted on Infrastructure Exchange. DOE will attempt to respond to a question within 3 business days unless a similar question and answer has already been posted on the website. If you're having problems with Infrastructure Exchange or problems with uploading and submitting any of the application documents, please email Infrastructure Exchange support at hq.doe.gov and include the FOA name and number in the subject line. Also, just as a reminder, these slides presented here today will be posted on Infrastructure Exchange. Next slide, please. So we encourage you to connect with MESC utilizing the following links and addresses for all updates regarding this and other funding opportunities. Next slide, please. So this concludes our FOA webinar. Thank you very much for your time.